prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. To you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past.
نسيم الشوق يهلو في الحنايا وحب البذل من خير السجايا تجمل بالعطاء تعش
طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. As the Prophet said, seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. Today in our Ummah we find the symptom of people not caring about knowledge, which shows the lack of commitment, the lack of faith, the lack of attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't feel that knowledge is important anymore. If we look subhanAllah at the followers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions and the Salaf, the people who came after, they used to travel for months sometimes. While today subhanAllah we have the knowledge in the books, at our computers, on our phones even, so easily accessible. However, we don't care about seeking this knowledge. We don't care about knowing what is haram, what is halal, how should we pray, what should we say, what should we do, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is his Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we don't feel this necessity anymore. Youth are busy with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so many other things that make them waste their time and take them away from seeking knowledge. We, subhanAllah, we find that the knowledge is decreasing more and more, and this is a sign of the Day of Judgment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ya akhi, one of the issues today that we're facing in the Ummah is the lack of motivation to seek knowledge and leaving the path to seeking knowledge, especially, subhanAllah, amongst the youth. And we know very well that the best time to seek knowledge is in your early ages, when your mind is fresh, alhamdulillah, you're still, you have the energy and the ability to do that. And subhanAllah, we see, the youth usually quite young, they memorize the Quran very easy, right? So when you get older, right, you've amassed a whole mountain of sins, your mind is blocked and many other things, subhanAllah, so obviously your abilities are lower to memorize. But we find, as we talked before in the previous, people are wasting time, the Ummah, the Muslim youth specifically, they're wasting their time, and they don't feel the need or the love to gain knowledge, to seek knowledge, even though today it might be the knowledge is more accessible and easier to get than it was before with the computers and the internet and so on and so forth. People can gain knowledge from anything. You have PDFs of all the books, subhanAllah, now with the new Maktaba Shamila that they have, subhanAllah. It's like on the computer. How many books? Thousands of books, subhanAllah, right? So what do you think? This is a symptom of the lack of faith. What do you think? Why the youth and the Muslims in general do they left seeking knowledge?
Before just getting to that, I would say that I'm not going to put all the blame on the youth. That the youth are not, because sometimes it comes back to the role of a parent. What is the role of a parent in bringing the child and seeing from small what are the abilities within the child himself. If you look back, not all people forced their children to go out and to go out and do knowledge, but it was that the parents would bring them up in the proper tarbiyah, so that it builds them into having love for Islam automatically.
Right.
So you would find that from small, they would train the children, take them to the mosque. When they come back from make sure that they recite their work at home, they recite Quran, they learn the du'as, they attend the madaris where they teach them Arabic, where they teach them how the small, the basics of fiqh, things like this, in order so that from small he has that love, that inclination. If you read back into the lives of the Salaf and the scholars, for example, Abul Waqt, As-Sijzi, you will find that he was on a journey with his son to collect hadith and to listen to different scholars. And he was telling his son that, oh my son, look at this, as I am walking with you on this journey to collect hadith, This was what my father had done with me.
Subhanallah.
I was no more than 10 years old, and my father would make me hold 2 stones in my hand, you know. And as we would walk, he would keep on looking at me and ask me, "Are you tired?" And I would say, "No, I'm not tired." But he would see that he's a bit tired, so he would take that rock away and put a lighter stone in his hands, you know. And then his father, after an hour or so, would ask him, and this is while they're walking in that heat in the desert, you know, and his small child, who in today's time you'd normally find the parents holding him or making sure that they're comfortable, you know. And he's saying that my father would then ask me, "Are you tired now?" And he says that out of fear, I used to say to my father, "No, I'm not tired," you know.
And his
father would say to him, "Then why are you walking so slowly? You know, why is your hand sagging?" And you say, because I told my father, "No, I'm not scared." He said, I would lift up myself and carry that and start keeping up with my father again. And automatically after an hour or so, my father would see that I'm tired again. And then he used to remove that from my hand. And Sheikh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda in his kitab, which is Safahat min Sabri al-Ulama ala Shada'id al-Ilmi wa Tahsil, that the ulama, how they suffered, he added to the story, and he mentions that look at the father who is teaching his son from small, that what is it to strive for knowledge, that knowledge does not come on a platter, you understand. That knowledge is striving, and it is painful, and it is sacrifice if you want knowledge. And because of this here, this is why, alhamdulillah, the ilm that was brought from Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to the Sahaba, to the Salaf, has been protected for us to read, because they went through sacrifices for this knowledge to come to us, you know. So subhanallah, amazing. They didn't eat chocolates and sweets when they were small children and have like how we having all delicious just and that playing around soccer
games and
soccer from a PlayStation and PSP and Xbox and all this Game Boy and whatever, you know. They didn't have those times.
2 points that I want to add to subhanallah. You just said that the example of the parents, and the parents even following up with their children and make sure, and the concept of the parent themselves seeking knowledge, as we're seeing on a journey to seek hadith, and the parent themselves being practicing of the deen and being attached to the deen. Not just, you know, a lot of times now parents might have the expectation, I want my son to memorize the Quran. And the question I would ask them right away is like, have you memorized the Quran? Or have you attempted to memorize the Quran? And what did you do in seeking knowledge?
Have you made him from small have love for the Quran? Because sometimes the parents would be like, you're not going to get, I'm not going to give you this, you're not going to get this until you go and memorize the Quran. So he's like, oh, okay, just for my father, I'll memorize the Quran, you know?
And that's amazing thing, because as we say, we cannot blame only the youth, right? Sometimes it's the parents' fault, sometimes, of course, everyone has their own fault. Sometimes even the way that people are being taught and the way the knowledge is presented. If we look at the way the Prophet ﷺ used to teach, for example, the context of how he used to teach, the love that he instilled in the Sahaba of seeking knowledge, and the people who came after, they understood what it means. They used to taste the halawa and the sweetness of seeking knowledge, the sweetness of Iman by doing this, right? So the way we present the knowledge, this is something very important. I would say that we always have to go to the manhaj of the Prophet ﷺ and study that, how did he deliver the ilm? Because he was the best of teachers, right? He was humanity's teacher, and the way that he taught people, this should be our inspiration. We shouldn't, you know, make our own philosophies of how we should teach and our own ways and, you know, cultural sometimes, very cultural, that would actually deter people from seeking knowledge. This is one of the things, you know. Another beautiful, you know, things that you said is, subhanAllah, training the child. You know, the child is like a sponge, okay? Psychologically speaking, you know, there's a time of imprint, okay? When the child takes pretty much anything that you give him, right? If you put something bad into him, he'll take something bad. If you give him candy, if you give him Pokemon, and you give him Hannah Montana, and, you know, all these crazy things that people are giving today, and they're watching and, you know, engaging in.
Buying for them Barbie dolls and making them listen music.
Then this is what they will like. They will take that. They will know everything about that, and they will dedicate time. You are giving them that, and this is what's gonna shape their, you know, who they are.
You
their
find your child is 9 years old, he has the iPhone 5.
iPad,
He,
not just
he
that,
has all the
Facebook account, all the gadgets,
and you expect
he
him.
has seen all the movies, all the cartoons, he knows all the names, right? So it is, you know, very important that this sponge is ready to absorb. What do you put in them? And this is a responsibility, you know. And of course, as we said, yani, subhanAllah, we look at these beautiful examples, right? And you gave the example of the scholar. And also Imam Ahmed, yani, his mother, yani, subhanAllah, the mother of Imam Ahmed, how she prayed for him, how she used to train him.
And Imam Bukhari.
The
was the same
mother of
thing.
Imam Bukhari, subhanAllah. Yani, look at these, and we ask ourselves, yani, even as parents, yani, where are those mothers? Where are those fathers? And at the same time, where are those children?
You know, it's a fact. Also, Ata ibn Rabah, who was known as one of the scholars of hadith in Medina, who was famous for hadith, and it is mentioned that because his mother saved money and made him seek knowledge, that when his father came back after many years, and he saw that, he asked his mother, that the father asked the wife, what did you do with the money that I had given you? And she said, don't worry, after Salah you will see what I've done with the money. And in Medina, straight after the Fajr Salah, everybody was just rushing. And everybody holding the kitabs of hadith, and everybody just rushing to class and sitting in tashahud in front of this teacher, who is a bit, and everybody looking down out of awe for the teacher. And the father looks up and he sees that it's his son, Ata ibn Rabah. Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Abdullah ibn Zubayr was one of the first children when the Muhajirin went from Mecca to Medina. The Jews in Medina said the Muhajirin could not get children. So the Jews said it is because of them turning against the coming to Islam, and that it's a curse upon them. And Abdullah ibn Zubayr was one of the first children born to the Muhajirin. His father was Zubayr ibn Awam, and his mother was Asma, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an. And look at the beauty of this. His father, they said, Zubayr ibn Awam, when he used to fight in battle, he used to fight with both swords in his hand, and his son Abdullah would be on his back. And they say that he used to reach in the battle where the other Sahaba couldn't reach. He was so brave.
Go through the whole row and come back.
The whole row and coming back with his son on his back. So you can picture what was the heart of the training, the tarbiyah.
Have spilled over onto the
escalated into violent clashes between police and protesters
over the government's plan to avoid default.
And we're also hearing of injuries on both.
Journalist Charlie McGrath says the cuts will heap further suffering on ordinary people.
For decades, but the fence needs some
This is a serious and big storm.
Join me as I explore pressing issues facing the Muslim world today. From the one-sided civil war in Syria to the genocide in Burma, from the Arab Spring to the elections in the US, and yes, even the Euro debt crisis in Greece. Honest reporting on a channel you can trust, and I won't leave an issue untouched. Don't miss the Ummah Tonight with me, Malik, on your favorite channel for the TV.
يا هذا علمت من تعامل وأنت خارج من بيتك إلى حلقة من حلقات الذكر. يا هذا لو علمت أي ليلة تلك الليلة التي سهرت وتعبت ونصبت وأنت تقرأ كتاب الله أو تقرأ سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لتحفظها للأمة. واعلم أنه لا يأتيك الكسل والخمول إلا بسبب الذنب، ولا يأتيك الانصراف عن العلم إلا بسبب الغفلة، ودواء ذلك ما أرشدك إليه ربك. أكثر من الاستغفار والتوبة إلى الله عز وجل، وقل اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن تحرمني خير ما عندك بشر ما عندي. سل الله أن يغفر ذنبا يحول بينك وبين العلم.
It seems that, as parents, sometimes we feel like, my son or my daughter, I need to go do my own thing. And we look at these people and they used to take their children with them. They used to train them. They used to instill, and I would say again, I want to emphasize, instill the love of these things. Because again, as you said, if you force someone, they might not take it. And sometimes we feel like, for example, a very important, concept, the hijab, right? A lot of times people say that, okay, it's like, the girl has reached her puberty, all of a sudden, okay, daughter, it's time to change. From tomorrow your life is changing, you have to cover. And you're like, till now, you never told her anything about the hijab. You didn't make her love the hijab. And all of a sudden, you expect her to change in one night. You've given her all kinds, let her watch all the movies and shows where girls are not wearing anything and wearing short skirts and all these things. And all of a sudden, you expect her to change overnight.
And that's why the scholars mentioned that it's so important, the tarbiyah, that tarbiyah doesn't start after your child is born. It starts from the day you're deciding making a child. Your deeds, your good actions, the du'as that you recite before you're wanting to make a good child, and the environment in where you understand all this here counts, because all that affects, it has effect because the parent has the biggest effect on a child. And you will find that most scholars, the outcome in life and for them being successful in life, it was because of the tarbiyah and the upbringing of their parents.
Now let's move to related thing, but it seems that even the ones who start studying, sometimes they do it in the wrong way, and this has a lot of detrimental causes. But sometimes the people start studying, and they don't know where to start studying. They'll start studying very complicated things, reading 10, 15 volumes, trying to go into and they don't know the manhaj or which approach to do, or which approach to take in seeking knowledge, like without any guidance. And then they find that it's too hard, or it's too confusing, or they don't know where to tie the ends, or which, should be the next step, and then they leave, seeking knowledge. We find many, of these cases.
It becomes too difficult. The important thing is, as a student, and this is a fact again, we say, that a student, when he sets himself out to study, say for example, if you say, I want to memorize the Quran, you should have the target in front of you that, look, this memorizing the Quran, it has a few difficulties that you need to sacrifice, you need to give time, you understand? As long as a person has that in him, he will complete memorizing the Quran. Number two, if you are seeking knowledge, it is important as a student to search in yourself and to find out from scholars who are already in that field. That is, it goes back again to a student shouldn't be shy, because a student seeking deen should never be shy. Go and speak to scholars. Ask them of different fields. For example, if you want to take up Sharia, or if you want to take up Usuluddin, or if you want to take up, so it's which path you want to take up. So building your foundation, finding out from scholars, how should I build my foundation? All these things count, because when a person has a target, he knows what is his bounds and his limits in reaching that target. It's not just jumping into, and it's like almost jumping into a jungle and finding yourself just surrounded by trees and noises and everything, and you don't know what is happening. And eventually you just want to get out of it.
Right.
You understand?
So it seems like there's a few facets to this issue, and this, how would I say? I mean, that it's not just one aspect. I mean, you have the concept of the parents, tarbiyah of the parents. You have the concept of the person himself and the desire and to seek the knowledge, and you have the aspect of how to seek the knowledge, right? I mean, it's not just from one side, but there's a few different angles that you can look at seeking knowledge. Now, how can youth who might want to have the desire to seek knowledge or might want to go with the path of seeking knowledge, how would they approach the seeking the knowledge? Where would they start?
That's what we said, that they need to basically have a good foundation. Basically, don't start off high, Don't start off reading.
Should they start with memorizing the Quran? Should they start with...
It depends on his age. If he has that time limit to memorize, I mean not time limit, but if he has that wish, you're never too old to memorize the Quran. You understand? And then foundation is the most important. That starting off from the bottom, from the roots. For example, your grammar, your surf, you're learning the basic rules of fiqh, the basic hadith, the basic translations, sitting with the teacher, explaining to you this, so that you get an idea of everything, so that you know what you are getting into. And then from there, slowly building yourself up until you reach a level of understanding, until you can sit with the big scholars and you can listen to the beauty of the scholars, for example, like in Bukhari or Tirmidhi, you understand, so that but you start off from building up a foundation. That is the most important.
I think also a very important point, and we need to understand, is that We should, a lot of times we forget about the importance of making dua. And this reminds me of the dua the Prophet used to teach us, Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'na, wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilma. Oh Allah, teach us what is beneficial and benefit us with what you have taught us and raise us in knowledge. SubhanAllah. Allahumma ameen.
And it's important the intention.
Sincere you're taking this path, and we know the hadith that whoever seeks a path to knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make a path easy for him to Jannah. Imagine it. This is the jihad, and even the Prophet described that the one who comes to his masjid with the intention to seek the knowledge, it's like he's in jihad, and this is his struggle, his fight, to seek the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this deen, to spread this knowledge, And as I said, we need to have, as you said, the intention and the making of the dua, and we need to be sincere, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely bless this. And as the Prophet said in the hadith, مَن يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Whoever Allah wants good for him, Allah will give him understanding of the deen. Because there's a difference. I want to kind of end with this. People have left the deens for, seeking knowledge for many different reasons, as we've discussed, and there's many different facets to it and aspects. But a lot of times, people, they seek the knowledge, but they don't understand the knowledge, right? They don't get the knowledge, they don't feel the knowledge. And this is where, even the meaning of the word fiqh, comes, to understand.
And there was a beautiful saying of one of the scholars. He said that you find scholars who they seek knowledge and they get knowledge, but they only are informative.
Subhanallah.
Understand? They're not practical.
Subhanallah.
And then so you need to join both practical and be informative.
So again, just kind of to review it. Parents should be there, should help their children.
Upbringing of the children.
Upbringing, okay. The way the children themselves should have the desire, and not just the children, the youth in general.
And if the parents see it in him,
right,
they shouldn't desire for him to go after, because the parent would see in him that he loves holding the Quran, he loves reading a hadith, and the parent says, no, I want him to become a doctor, or I want him to become an engineer. Subhanallah. That is sad and detrimental. And if you see in your child he has that rughbah and that desire to follow in this path, then you should incite and encourage him.
May Allah make us from the Ahl al-Ilm, inshallah.
Oh Lord, to you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. To you I pray, bow down, prostrate. You are the only one worthy of praise. I stand before you with an attentive heart. Erase my sins from the present and past. Oh, to you I pray. You are the only one worthy of praise. Oh my Lord, I surrender to you. I entrust all of my affairs to you. I depend on you for your blessings too, both with hope and fear of you. There is no fleeing